sent west as a punishment, but the cowboy saw her as the greatest blessing in his life. Clara Whitmore had never seen so much dust in her life. Back in the city, everything was clean, bright, and full of noise. Carriages rolled over smooth streets, people spoke politely, and life followed strict rules. Clara had grown up in comfort, surrounded by silk dresses and soft beds. She had never needed to work for anything. But all of that changed the day her father sent her away. "You will go west," he had said in a cold voice. "Maybe there you will learn something." Clara had argued, of course. She had always spoken her mind, and that was exactly what caused the problem. She refused to follow the life her father had planned for her. She refused to marry the man he chose. So now, this was her punishment. The journey was long and tiring. The train carried her far away from everything she knew. As the days passed, the land outside the window slowly changed. The green fields disappeared. The buildings grew smaller. Soon, there was nothing but wide-open land and empty skies. Clara felt her anger growing with every mile. "How can people live here?" she muttered to herself. When she finally arrived at Red Hollow, she almost couldn't believe her eyes. The town was small, too small. A few wooden buildings stood along a dusty road. There were no fine shops, no large houses, no signs of the life she once knew. The air was dry, and the sun felt stronger than ever. "This place is impossible," she whispered. No one came to greet her. People looked at her, yes, but only for a moment. Then they returned to their work, as if she didn't matter at all. Clara felt something she had never felt before. She felt invisible. Just as she was about to lose her patience completely, a man approached her. He was tall, wearing a worn hat and simple clothes. His face was calm, but serious. His eyes were sharp, like he noticed everything without saying much. "Clara Whitmore?" he asked. She lifted her chin. "Yes, and you are?" "Elias Boone." That was all he said. Clara waited for more, a welcome, an explanation, something. But Elias simply stood there, looking at her as if she were just another task to complete. "Well," Clara said, clearly annoyed, "are you here to take me somewhere or just stare?" Elias turned without answering. "Come on." Clara frowned but followed him anyway. She didn't have much choice. They walked through the town and out toward the open land. In the distance, she saw a small ranch. It looked old but strong, standing alone under the wide sky. "This is where you'll stay," Elias said. Clara stopped walking. "Here? You must be joking." Elias looked at her calmly. "No." "There's nothing here," she said. "No servants, no proper rooms." "There's work," he interrupted. Clara blinked in surprise. "Work?" "If you stay here, you work," Elias said simply. "Everyone does." Clara felt her face grow warm with anger. "I am not here to work. I was sent here, then you were sent to the wrong place," Elias said. For a moment, there was silence between them. Clara wasn't used to this. People in the city listened to her. They agreed with her. They never spoke to her like this. But Elias didn't seem to care who she was. He walked ahead, leaving her standing there. After a few seconds, Clara sighed and followed him again. Inside the house, things were simple. A wooden table, a few chairs, a small bed. No decorations, no comfort. Clara slowly turned in a circle, taking it all in. "This is worse than I thought," she said quietly. Elias leaned against the door. "You'll get used to it." "I won't," Clara replied quickly. Elias didn't argue. "We'll see." The sun was beginning to set outside. The sky turned orange and gold, stretching endlessly across the horizon. Clara stepped outside and looked at it. It was different. Back in the city, she had never noticed the sky like this. It felt bigger here, wider, almost endless. For a moment, she forgot her anger, but then the wind picked up, carrying dust through the air, and she remembered exactly where she was. "I'm not staying long," she said firmly. A week, maybe less. Elias nodded once. That's what most people say. Clara crossed her arms. I mean it. Elias gave a small, almost invisible smile. We'll see. Clara looked away, back toward the open land. She still hated this place. It was too quiet, too empty, too far from everything she knew. And yet, there was something strange about it, something she couldn't explain. As the last light of the day faded, Clara stood there, unsure of what would come next. She had been sent west as a punishment, but deep inside, something had already begun to change, and she didn't even realize it yet. The next morning began before the sun even rose. Clara was still asleep when she heard a loud knock on the door. Wake up, Elias's voice came from outside. Day starts early here. Clara pulled the blanket over her head. It's still dark, she complained. Exactly, Elias replied. Move. Clara groaned but slowly sat up. Her body already felt tired, even though she had done nothing yet. She looked around the small room and sighed. I can't believe this is my life now, she whispered. Outside, the air was cold and fresh. The sky was just beginning to turn light blue. Elias stood near the fence, already working. Clara walked toward him, still half asleep. What am I supposed to do? Elias handed her a bucket. Feed the chickens. Clara stared at the bucket like it was something strange. I've never done that. Elias nodded. You'll learn. Clara walked carefully toward the chickens. As soon as she stepped closer, they started moving around her quickly. She jumped back in surprise. Why are they like that? She said loudly. Elias didn't even look up. They're chickens. Clara took a deep breath and tried again. This time, she slowly scattered the feed. The chickens gathered around, pecking at the ground. She watched them, confused but a little curious. After that, things only got harder. She had to carry water, clean parts of the barn, and help with small tasks she didn't even understand. By midday, her hands were sore, and her dress was covered in dust. I can't do this, she said, dropping a small tool. This is too much. Elias finally looked at her. You've only worked a few hours. That's enough, Clara said. I'm not used to this. Elias walked closer. Then get used to it. Clara felt her anger rise again. You don't understand. I didn't choose this. Elias's voice stayed calm. Neither did I. That surprised her. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Elias turned away and continued working. You can quit if you want. No one's stopping you. Clara looked at him, then at the open land around her. Quit? And go where? She stayed silent. The days passed and nothing became easier. Clara woke up early every morning. She worked until her body felt heavy and tired. Many times she wanted to give up. Many times she almost did. But something stopped her every time. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Or maybe it was something else. One afternoon, she was trying to carry a bucket of water. It was too heavy, and she almost dropped it. Elias walked over and took it from her. You're holding it wrong. I'm trying, Clara said, frustrated. Elias showed her a better way. Like this. Use both hands, keep it close. Clara watched carefully. Then she tried again. This time, it worked. She didn't say anything, but for the first time, she didn't feel completely useless. Slowly, small things began to change. Clara stopped complaining as much. She started asking questions instead. How do you know when the weather will change? She asked one evening. Elias pointed at the sky. You watch. You learn. Clara followed his gaze. The clouds moved slowly, painted in soft colors. It was peaceful. You've been here a long time? She asked. Elias nodded. Long enough. Clara wanted to ask more, but she didn't. There was something about Elias. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it mattered. One evening, a strong wind began to blow. Dark clouds filled the sky. A storm's coming, Elias said. Clara felt nervous. What do we do? Move the animals, he replied quickly. Everything became busy. The wind grew stronger and dust filled the air. Clara could barely see, but she followed Elias. "Help me with the gate," he called. Clara ran toward him. Her heart was beating fast. She held the gate as Elias guided the animals inside. The storm hit hard. Rain fell heavily and thunder echoed across the land. Clara was scared, but she didn't stop. She stayed, helping as much as she could. After some time, the storm began to slow down. Everything was wet and quiet again. Clara stood there, breathing heavily. Elias looked at her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he gave a small nod. "You did good," he said. Clara blinked in surprise. It was the first time he had said something like that. She felt something warm inside her chest. "Thank you," she said softly. That night, Clara sat outside, looking at the sky again. The stars were bright, shining clearly after the storm. She thought about the city. For the first time, she didn't miss it as much. Just as she was getting used to the quiet, she heard footsteps behind her. Elias walked up, holding a letter. "This came for you," he said. Clara took it slowly. She recognized the handwriting immediately. It was from her father. Her heart started to beat faster. Everything she had left behind was now calling her back. Clara looked up at Elias, unsure of what to feel. And suddenly, nothing felt simple anymore. Clara held the letter in her hands for a long time. She didn't open it right away. The paper felt heavy, even though it was light. Her father's handwriting was clear and familiar. It brought back memories she had tried to forget. Elias stood nearby, but said nothing. He simply nodded once and walked away, giving her space. Clara slowly sat down on the wooden step outside the house. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the letter. She read it once, then again, and then a third time. Her father's words were simple but powerful. "Return home. Your place is here. Everything will be forgiven." Clara lowered the letter. For a moment, the world around her disappeared. She could almost see her old home again, the large rooms, the soft lights, the comfortable life she once had. No hard work, no early mornings, no dust. Everything would go back to normal. "This is what I wanted," she whispered to herself. Wasn't it? She stood up slowly and looked around. The ranch was quiet. The wind moved gently across the land. In the distance, she saw Elias working near the fence, focused as always. Everything here was simple, but it was real. Clara felt something strange in her chest. She folded the letter carefully and held it close. That evening, she found Elias near the barn. "I got the letter," she said. Elias nodded. "I figured." Clara waited for him to ask something, but he didn't. "You're not going to say anything?" she asked. Elias kept working. "It's your choice." Clara frowned. "That's it?" Elias finally looked at her. "What do you want me to say?" Clara didn't have an answer. Elias continued, "People like you don't stay here." Clara felt a sharp feeling inside her. "People like me?" "You belong somewhere else," Elias said calmly. "Somewhere easier." Clara looked down at her hands. They were no longer soft like before. There were small marks now, signs of the work she had been doing. "Maybe I don't," she said quietly. Elias didn't reply. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She turned from side to side, her thoughts running fast. Go back or stay? Both choices felt heavy. She thought about her father, his strict voice, his expectations, the life he had planned for her. Then she thought about Red Hollow, the early mornings, the hard work, the quiet evenings under the wide sky, and Elias. She closed her eyes. Why did leaving feel so difficult now? The next morning, the sun rose like always, but everything felt different. Clara stepped outside and saw Elias near the horses. He was preparing one of them, checking the saddle carefully. "What are you doing?" she asked. Elias didn't look at her. "Getting a horse ready." "For what?" "For your trip," he said simply. Clara froze. "You're leaving today, right?" Clara didn't answer. Elias continued. "Better to leave early. It's a long journey." Clara watched him quietly. There was something in his voice, something calm, but also distant. He had already decided. Or maybe he thought she had. Clara took a step closer. "And if I don't leave?" Elias paused for a moment. Then he continued working. "You will." Clara felt her chest tighten. "Why do you think that?" she asked. Elias finally turned toward her. His eyes were steady. "Because no one chooses a hard life when they have an easy one waiting." Clara looked at him, searching for something more, but his face didn't change. That hurt more than she expected. "Maybe you're wrong," she said. Elias shook his head slightly. "I'm not." Clara said nothing more. She turned and walked away, holding the letter tightly in her hand. The day passed slowly. Everything felt heavy, even the air. Clara tried to work, but her mind kept going back to the same question. What did she really want? As the sun began to set, Clara walked out toward the open land. The sky was wide and beautiful, filled with soft colors. The same sky she once hated. Now, it felt different. She took a deep breath. Back in the city, her life was already decided. Here, she had a choice. For the first time in her life, no one was telling her what to do. No rules, no expectations, just her. And that scared her. But it also gave her strength. Clara looked down at the letter one last time. Then she closed her eyes. "I can go back," she whispered. "But do I want to?" The wind moved gently around her, as if waiting for her answer. Far behind her, the ranch stood quiet, and somewhere near the barn, Elias waited, even if he didn't admit it. Clara opened her eyes. Her decision was close, very close, and by morning, everything would change. Morning came quietly. The sun slowly rose over the wide land, spreading soft light across the ranch. Everything looked calm, just like any other day. But today was not the same. Elias stood near the gate, holding the reins of the horse he had prepared. The saddle was ready. A small bag was tied to the side. He didn't look at the house. He didn't need to. In his mind, the decision was already made. Clara would leave. People like her always did. Elias adjusted the saddle one more time, keeping his hands busy. It was easier that way. After a few moments, he heard the door open. Clara stepped outside. She walked slowly, her steps quiet but steady. She wasn't carrying any bags. Elias noticed that immediately. His eyes moved from her hands to her face. "You're not ready," he said. Clara stopped a few steps away from him. "I am," she replied. Elias frowned slightly. "Then where are your things?" Clara took a deep breath. "I'm not going." The words stayed in the air between them. For a moment, everything felt still. Elias didn't move. He looked at her carefully, as if trying to understand if she really meant it. "You should think again," he said after a pause. "You have a better life waiting." Clara shook her head. "No, I have an easier life waiting." Elias said nothing. Clara stepped closer. "That's not the same." The wind moved softly around them. Clara looked at the land around her, the open sky, the quiet ranch, the place she once called a punishment. "I used to hate this place," she said. "I thought it was empty. I thought it had nothing for me." Elias listened, still silent. "But I was wrong," she continued. "It has something real, something I never had before." She looked down at her hands for a moment. "They're not soft anymore," she said with a small smile. "They hurt sometimes, but they remind me that I can do things on my own." Elias watched her closely. "And here," Clara said, her voice softer now, "no one decides my life for me." She looked back at him. "I choose this." Elias's grip on the reins loosened slightly. "Why?" he asked quietly. Clara didn't answer right away. She thought about the long days, the hard work, the moments she almost gave up. Then she thought about the evenings under the sky, the quiet peace, the small victories. And him. "Because I belong here," she said. Elias looked away for a second, then back at her. "You're sure?" he asked. Clara nodded. "Yes." There was a long silence. Then Elias let go of the horse. The reins fell gently to the ground. He stepped closer to her, not saying anything at first. "I was wrong about you," he said finally. Clara smiled a little. "You were wrong about a lot of things." Elias almost smiled too. For the first time, the distance between them felt gone. The tension that once filled every conversation had disappeared. Now, there was something calm, something real. Days turned into weeks. Clara didn't leave. Instead, she became part of the ranch. She woke up early, worked hard, and learned more every day. She no longer complained. She no longer felt out of place. The people in town began to know her, not as the rich girl from the city, but as someone who belonged there, someone strong, someone real. Elias noticed everything. He noticed how she moved with confidence now, how she smiled more, how she understood the land better with each passing day. The ranch no longer felt quiet in a lonely way. Now it felt alive. One evening, as the sun began to set, Clara stood outside, looking at the sky. The colors were soft and warm, just like the first time she had truly noticed them. Elias walked up beside her. "You still think this place is a punishment?" he asked. Clara shook her head gently. "No," she said. "It's the best thing that ever happened to me." Elias looked at her, his expression calm but warm. "I guess," he said slowly, "it was the same for me." Clara turned to him, surprised. "For you?" she asked. Elias nodded. "When you first arrived, I thought you were trouble," he said. "I thought you wouldn't last." Clara laughed softly. "I almost didn't." "But you did," Elias said, "and things changed." Clara looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. "Sometimes," she said, "the things we don't want turn out to be exactly what we need." Elias nodded. They stood there together, watching the sun disappear beyond the horizon. No rush, no pressure, just peace. Clara had been sent west as a punishment, but she found something she never expected. A place to belong, a life she chose for herself, and someone who saw her not as a burden, but as the greatest blessing of all.